Many years ago, I woke up one morning and got my coffee, and I got a call that a theft of a valuable piece of equipment that was pretty much within my jurisdiction, in my area, and it was suddenly gone. I was not amused by the news because I had just even observed the item. It was a piece of equipment that was large and very expensive. Um, and I had just looked at it, just not even 24 hours earlier, in over a few days' time. It had been moved to an open field and parked there by the operator. And even my manager at a higher level said, "Well, just keep an eye on that." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm totally in agreement with that. Why is it here? Well, we're going to use it for some new project. It's construction equipment, by the way, and it pretty much its value by the time it was transported. The thing about markup when equipment is shipped outside of the United States, guess what? Markup is beautiful. If you're in retail, you're going to make a lot of money just procuring the equipment and then shipping it. The markup is huge. So this thing was valued at least $250,000 easily. And this piece of equipment was brought in the previous 2 days and then parked, and then it had been chained and all that. And this massive piece of equipment. And I guess the operators did the best they could because they knew that some of us would come out and tell them you need to secure that equipment better. So I observed that they had just sufficient precautions for the equipment to remain in place until it was needed for use. So that morning when I got the call, uh, my colleague that do you remember that piece of equipment we were talking about earlier in the week? And I said yes. And coffee did not go down really good that morning. What I was hearing was not something I wanted to hear. It was gone, not on a job site. It wasn't an operation. It was simply gone. There was no trace other than some tracks on the ground that it had been staged there in a particular open field where everyone could see it. I know there were some cameras, but sometimes in security, we're we're not completely in charge. All we can do is just make recommendations and give advice, and hopefully the client or the people you're working for will listen. And that has always been a frustration. It makes it fascinating trying to work around these issues, but just the same, I knew that the precautions were taken, yet the equipment was gone. That had to take a lot of effort to take something that was over a couple of tons worth of equipment just to move them where nobody saw it. So from about 7, I figured that from the time that we saw it was at 2 p.m. in the afternoon the previous day, the next day through 7 a.m. So it was a whole shift. There had to be some type of documentation, meaning video. But when we request video capability, sometimes there are areas where there are clients that say, "Oh, we don't want video because it's a sensitive area." I'm going to put in parentheses, there's no sensitive anything. There's just an area where they do not want to be recorded. And I found this out many times. There's nothing really of a classified nature or sensitive nature that have to be protected in particular, other than they do not want to be monitored. And my hands will be tied. I would say I recommend that we put cameras on this thing. We're not authorized to do that. All right. So the thing is gone the next day, and we see some tracks on the ground, and that's all we got. And me being a quick thinker, I realized there's one place where there will be cameras, and that will be exiting our area of operations. So this is overseas, obviously, and so I just got in my vehicle and I told one of my other uh, colleagues, go ahead and go across the property and then talk to other people and see what you can gather. And then I hopped on my truck and I went across to the other side of the facility. And I I had one of the most bizarre encounters I've ever had in my career, where I got myself a little bit too deep too quickly, and I had to think very, very fast how to get out of it. I was at an observation point where it was an isolated area that had the entire view of the exit to the base of operations. So logically, I know today, I know then that there would be cameras, and the cameras would record footage, and footage would have to be archived. And that would give me a good window opportunity to just get eyes on anything, any activity, so I can time it. So between about 11:45 p.m. and 7 a.m., I kind of guessed that. I would say that it's about 7 hours, not even factoring in the time when I actually observed the piece of equipment with other colleagues. We're talking about it. We're just standing right next to it. And so, well, this better be here in the morning, but it wasn't. Um, I don't think I jinxed myself, but you never know. Sometimes don't say the things you're suspecting out loud. And this is an isolated place because I had to climb to a tower, an observation tower. So there's usually one operator, and they have access to all the entry points, um, surveillance. And I posed my question, and everything was really friendly and welcoming for about a minute, until I mentioned the timelines that I needed to investigate. And I said, I'm not with police. I'm definitely with a private entity, but I collaborate with police. And I'm just getting a head start because this happened a few hours ago. And I spent the next 45 minutes watching how the operator was trying to find footage and just not landing on it. Why not? Because footage is picked up, it's collected. Video footage is collected chronologically. Why can you not zoom in? All you have to do is type in your parameters, give you timelines, and a date. This is fresh footage. And somehow this individual could never even land on the footage before and then right after, but not exactly where I needed him to land. And part of my brain was, my eyes were dashing across his field of view from the tower. I had to climb up quite a distance above ground to get to it. Not an easy way to escape from a situation like this. Not that I felt necessarily overtly threatened, but that something clicked in both of us. His body language changed when I mentioned the timelines, and he kept desperately trying to zoom in on footage that I realized was not there. And I wanted to ask the next question. And the next following question was, what happened to it? But I held back. I did not push into an interrogation because I was definitely yeah, and just significantly outside my jurisdiction, but definitely within some professional right to ask questions, but just not very aggressively. And I saw the blood flush completely out of this person's face, and they became very tense, very stiff, just maneuvering, tilting, and then looking through worthless footage that I knew were not serving my purpose there. And I was growing impatient, but I was not showing my patience. I was keeping calm, because then I realized, I looked around, that we're the only two people here. And why is there missing footage? And I was calculating that it was at least 7 hours of footage that were gone, or as the person said, I cannot locate it. You just can't find it. It's not like you go into file and then you click it. Sometimes you save it, but less than 24 hours. Most of the policies for archiving security footage, it may be archived and taken out, but technically that was a whole shift. And this is running about 9 a.m., maybe 10 in morning the next day. So technically, the operator should have been able to locate the footage for those parameters, for those hours. So I made the command decision to blink first, and as I looked around the entire area from a high point, I realized I needed to start climbing back down that ladder. I said, I may come back. I'll speak with law enforcement to join forces to see what we can get more done. But I would appreciate you if you can secure that footage. I know I was full of it, and he in turn seemed to breathe a sigh of relief that the tension came to an end very quickly. I excused myself. I thanked him profusely. I kept calm, and then I started to exit and climb down. And I got back in my vehicle, and I looked around, and again I started surveilling the area. That I knew that I was pretty much trapped in a corner. And when people are trapped, and this is not the first time I've been in a kind of a dicey situation. People do really stupid things when they feel cornered. People do really stupid things when they feel trapped. And my exit was definitely on point. My exit really should have been much sooner than that, when I was told, yeah, I can't find it. That should have been one clue, but I practice total war when I'm investigating things. I just really want to get to it as quickly as possible, because evidence can go away very quickly. Seconds. It doesn't take much to delete a file. And in this age of, I almost, that part of me that wanted, I had a lot of snark in me. I still do. What are you using? VHS or beta tapes for this? This is all digital. This is all digital. That's why we have technology. And there's no technology failure here in this scenario. I found myself very, very much out in the open and vulnerable, and that was not conducive to what I was trying to do. To this day, I have never really found out what happened. I turned over to the big guys. The big guys even tried to locate this piece of equipment from the air, and it was so carefully camouflaged. I don't know how it was done, but a lot of people were involved in that. And I got laughed at some people in high places that, oh yeah, that thing, they just wanted to forget all about it. So when we have something that's really major that happens, and then people seem to be really nonchalant and dismissive, that's when even people like me, I want to tear into it, and I want to see the flaws and what gaps in information and where they come from and why. Sometimes we need to disengage, not because I wanted to, but I had to. And I was not happy. Look, that would happen years ago, and I'm still upset about the 7 hours of missing footage. So when I watch on occasion the news, and I get to hear something like this, it takes me back to that time.
He allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from jailhouse tape on the night of the set?
Yeah, sure. If
Could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy. with what happened in
This
Texas.
is why I'm
It just
wearing
seems
pearls today.
like a
I am
desecration. But
clutching
you go
my
ahead.
pearls.
Sure.
Yeah,
First, to back
please
up
go
on
ahead and
that,
take the
in
question.
February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I said, I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that. Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day. To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that. And the minute missing from the video,
Here we go.
we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was.
Okay, I don't even want to hear it more. Why release something that's really basically garbage? It is of no use to release a video for lots of us who have nothing else better to do than to analyze video and the quality and relevance of the video. And I love video because video is the most astute way to capture and document an event. It is a part of the layers of an investigation. So this video today is not about Jeffrey Epstein's incarceration and the case itself, and about him dying in federal custody. Even though dying in custody and at any level, state, federal, and local, it's very bad news. It's just not good at all. It happens, but why release this pathetic show of, here, take that, and this is your answer? We found nothing. Elements in the government built up the story about the Epstein case to the point where people are really left craving more. Is this related to, for me, is it related to a lot of cases of human trafficking? Lots of them. Many inconclusive. People disappeared. Little kids, especially girls and women, they disappear. And now we're starting to see some effects of how investigations can yield so much information and bring justice to the people who are being abused. And to show a video that has a 1 minute gap, a 1 minute gap is actually, as the AG says, is acceptable in a federal facility. I would find totally unacceptable. Why is this? And they happen at every shift. So that means this is normal. And you're saying that publicly? 1 minute gaps. Does that mean that the Bureau of Prisons doesn't have a sound policy for protecting video, surveillance video evidence? And if someone dies in custody, then showing a video of the hallway with some doors to cells doesn't really amount to anything. And even she admits that this video released, it's inconclusive. Of course it's inconclusive because it's not meant to show. Is it meant to show a suicide or a murder of a prisoner who died in custody? And I want to go to the second part of this question. At no time, I believe that the average person, reasonable person, would actually want to see evidence of child abuse or porn and human trafficking. I think the majority of us, what we really wanted to make the connection to was bad actors that are tied to a crime and the type of crime and who's going to go to prison. I think the majority of people want to see that, which is why this so-called list that now, according to the government, no longer exists. There's never been a list, but people are doing prison time for a non-existent list. Therefore, if I were in those shoes, I guess I would see that as an opportunity to get out of jail card, get out of jail card, because there's no case if there's no list. I've been wondering about a list And it should have never been a campaign promise in the first place. And then they want to bring in the MLK assassination and JFK, totally disconnected from the topic. This is a modern day issue, not a 20th century issue. Yes, and some people that really history buffs who really want to dig into the MLK and JFK files. A lot of that stuff was released, but it just didn't have the same acceptance as this Jeffrey Epstein and this Island of Horrors case. And this was built up from last year, past couple of years, that we're going to release this information, and people really are interested. What I would have wanted to see is, since there's no list, then why is it all these cases of missing children suddenly are breaking? And I'm talking about like tons of children just being found. And I only have one story here because, I'll share with you briefly. U.S. Marshals had this operation, and this is this year, just maybe a couple of weeks ago. This is a 20-agency operation that the contents of this list is that this black book that technically does not exist. There never was a source of information for these horrible crimes. Is it connected? Is it possible that we're not realizing that releasing that information would cut off not just the source, but actually the sensitivity of these operations that can be highly beneficial to the public, to the common good? This is Dragon Eye, the largest child rescue operation, not just in Florida's history, but in the United States history. So this is nationwide. And I already explained how, unmonitored borders, combat zone, even refugee camps, I never even touched on that one, how human traffickers are just having a boom. This is where the money's at. And they will die to protect that source of money. Not just the perverts who benefit from the suffering of others, especially the younger victims. And this is a very nice graphic by the AG's office in Florida. But I'm unimpressed about the delivery of this information. The question was legit because it was a campaign promise, and I'm not for nor against. It has to have a use. The releasing information has to have a use, like I said, to benefit the country, the common good, law and order is reestablished. It has to have some sort of a use, a purpose to that. As a campaign promise, what do we expect to get? No, I reiterate that I've seen death. I have seen the effects of human trafficking up close. That's not a line of work that I would return to, not even for 5 seconds. If you got PTSD, do not get into that line of work because it's really hard mentally and emotionally. And I tip my hat to anyone and everyone who's working in these fields to protect children and vulnerable people from trafficking and sexual abuse. And this would be a greater service to humanity. I'm sure there may be other operations that could be carried out across the oceans that we're not aware of, where people are missing. But I would see the release information in that case to be like my 7 hours of missing footage. One crime, there's only one crime, and many people. I'm sure that crime was structured in a very sophisticated way, and it took a lot of people to pull it off. It really did. Lots of people are probably smiling that, oh, we got away with that. Someone got paid. Many people sat down somewhere and decided that they wanted to abscond with this piece of property paid for by the U.S. taxpayers, by the way. And it doesn't compare to 1 minute gap in a federal prison, but then it does make me question the effectiveness of how people who are incarcerated, how they're protected from themselves and other inmates. Number one. Number two, the staff, the corrections officers. Hat tip to them for what they do. But showing some worthless little bitty video showing that no one came and went from this prisoner's room. I understand from other people out on the web right now who the body language analysts, you have the behaviorists, they're digging really hard. There's really nothing from what I've observed. They're digging into it. This may not even be the cell block where Mr. Epstein was housed. We don't know. And so this is a PR blunder. And I'm just like I said, I'm really clutching the pearls today. Literally, I want to do this. I want to be a little bit upset and dissatisfied by the delivery. That was a legitimate complaint and legitimate question and curiosity from the public. It was promised, but now we're moving on to the next thing. And I don't think that the questions will go away. I would welcome them, but the handling of the questions yesterday was really not good. It was really, really mishandled because there is an interest, and I'm telling you what my interest would be in getting that 1 minute. But then I don't really think that the video in question, the way the AG talks, had any relevance or importance at all. So why release that? And again, no one wants to see the actual evidence of abuse or the criminal activity. That should be protected to protect the innocent, and sources and methodologies and all that stuff. But like I said, I keep saying it, the actors, the bad actors involved in crimes, absolutely, people want to see arrests and prison time. So why is that not actually the focus of the answer to the question? The question, again, I'd say not a media pundit or defender or a detractor, but the question was legit. What about this case? And so need to be dismissed that way. No wonder everybody's now crying foul that this is a conspiracy on top of another conspiracy. So video, I'm big on video. Video, that's tops for me, because having video is one of the best ways to map out the chronology of an event. On top of, interviewing witnesses that I knew for my case, my 7 hours, that kind of blew up in my face a little bit. It could have been worse, but I learned very quickly that sometimes that rabbit hole is really, really deep. There are a lot of people involved, and I understand why the government right now may be really skittish about releasing anything at all, and even admitting that there is such a source of information. That's pretty sad, because not for sensationalism, but really just our bad actors being brought to justice. And I think that to the level of our understanding is that's the only purpose of releasing information. So I want my 7 hours back. I'd go to my grave wondering how did they pull it off. I played out a lot of scenarios in my head. I don't play any scenarios whatsoever with this so-called Epstein video snippet, because it offers nothing, no perspective, timelines. I may see a timestamp or date. I may have to go back, but really it's not even piquing the curiosity. My curiosity as a professional, and even as I would be an average citizen with no knowledge of security, and I would dismiss the film. The video I would dismiss immediately. Like, it proves nothing. There's no purpose other than to, not even a bone. I still want those 7 hours back. How about BOP? Are they going to get their 1 minute gap fixed from their video capture? Is this only in New York facilities, or is this all of BOP facilities? That would be concerning. Nobody's asking that. Lastly, to issue any kind of qualifying statement about physical security and access control, you should get someone to actually sit in and vet the film and actually speak about what we think happened. And whatever your thoughts are, if this guy offed himself or someone went in and then that during that gap minute, that's really strange. It's even stranger to me that a gap is tolerated at all when it could be easily medicated. And how long has it been since that gap was noticed, showing nothing? So there's so much loss in a 1 minute gap now that I think most of us were not even considering until yesterday. Happy shortest day of the year. This is a weird Wednesday. Enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe. Help me out. I appreciate you.